Hello, a very warm welcome to today's webinar. Don't forget the candidate. My name's Simon Blockley and I'm the Client Solutions Director for Guidant Group. My job today is to briefly introduce Guidant and today's speaker, Russell Beck, who I know, looking at the work that's gone into the cover slide, will not fall on his face and who will, in fact, knock you over with his wit and delivery style. No pressure, Russ. So who are Guidant Group? Well, we are the specialist outsourcing brand of the Impellium Group, the second largest recruitment firm in the UK and the sixth largest MSP and RPO provider worldwide by revenue. And as you may have recently seen in the press, we are extremely proud to be the UK government's first MSP RPO disability confident partner. If you'd like to know more about us or following this webinar, you're keen to see more of the same high quality insight, please have a look at our website. The URL is on your screen at the moment. I'm conscious of time, so there's a few quick housekeeping points before I hand over. So firstly, with questions, please feel free to post any questions by clicking on the questions tab at the top of your screen. We'll respond following the completion of the webinar. Downloads. We're producing a supporting white paper which will be available to download from the Guidant website shortly following the completion of the webinar. And timing. It's a 45-minute webinar. If you can't stay for the duration, it is going to be made available on the Bright Talk platform, so you'll be able to watch and listen at your convenience. So on to today's webinar, Don't Forget the Candidate, delivered by Russell Beck. Well, in truth, there's not much to say here. It's always been a highly relevant topic, but even more so in today's world. And Russell is an exceptional speaker. So please just sit back and enjoy. Russell, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Simon. I hope this goes as well as Simon has pitched it so far. And good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us. Today, I want to look at things from the candidate's perspective. I want to consider what's going on in candidate world and spend the next 45 minutes in their shoes. On the screen now, you can see the agenda that I plan to cover today. So 4 things. Right up front, what I want to look at is actually what is candidate experience? It's a term we all use, we all know, and we all think we understand. But I just want to have a very, very quick look at what it is. Then I want to look at so what? Who cares? Who cares if you give a great experience to a candidate or a bad one? Does it have a material impact on your business? And if so, how much? Thirdly, I then want to look at the entire process from candidates before they even begin to realize they want to apply for you for a job, through the application, selection, and onboarding process, and have a look at some considerations around that. And then I'll summarize with a call to action and distill it into 10 points, so there's takeaways for you to consider going forward. So firstly, right up front, what actually is candidate experience? If you're going to talk about something, then I'm an engineer. I like to know what it is tangibly. Everyone talks about candidate experience. You can have the Candidate Experience Awards, the Candies, the Talent Board have interviewed and surveyed tens of thousands of candidates to ascertain their experience. Technology platforms, applicant tracking systems, psychometrics will all improve the candidate experience. But actually, what is it? What is it when you distill it down? So I turn to the universal font of all human knowledge, Wikipedia, in order to try and see if that would help define it for us. And actually, imagine my surprise when you actually look at Wikipedia and the candidate experience is not defined. As a term, it's not defined. If you look at the Talent Board literature and the Candies, they don't define the term candidate experience. And that is actually quite strange. So just one very minor detail. Challenge people as to what they actually think candidate experience is if you're looking at buying something or adding something into your process. As a starter for 10, this may or may not work for you. There's some key words in this, and this is a very quick definition that we put together considering all the research that we've done into this seminar. So the candidate experience is the impact on an individual's attitude about a firm having considered working for or having gone through their recruitment process. Couple of things here. It's someone who may consider working for you and they get an experience. They may have gone through the process. They may not have. And they may and increasingly are unlikely to get the job because the majority of candidates are rejected. So there's a number of factors in here that I will bring out as we go forward. So why is the candidate experience important? So what if you have a great experience or a bad one in the recruitment circle? Does it impact your business? And if so, how? Well, the first aspect for this, and the main one, is economic. On the screen now, you can see the UK's unemployment rate since 1980, stretching back 40-odd years. Basically, from a macro perspective, and I appreciate this is a macro broad brush comment, but basically unemployment is at a virtual 40-year low in the UK. There are more people in work today than ever before, 31.42 million people in work. The employment rate, that is the number of people in work aged between 16 and 64, is 74%. That is the highest it has ever been in terms of labour participation since records began in the early 70s. Broadly, that means anyone who wants a job can get one. I stress the word want. Got to have the right attitude, got to have some skills, got to be prepared to get out of bed in the morning and so on, and be conscientious and dedicated and focused and all those things. But anyone who broadly wants one can get it. It may well not be a job of their dreams, but they can get one. This means the people you want to hire are more than likely going to be in work. This means that the issues that candidates face, the experience they receive, will be the Rizzler-thick things that they base a hiring and an acceptance of an offer on. And the second aspect here is the experience we or others receive that we hear about impacts your choices. If you Google poor customer service and look at images, this screenshot comes up. It doesn't come up once. After it was first posted by someone, it went viral globally. This business is Diner in the US. Its business was significantly impacted by one person taking a photo. It wasn't the fact they waited that was the issue. That's lowercase. It was the fact there was no cervix that was the problem. And it virtually shut the place down. Based on feedback from people you have never met, that you're highly unlikely to meet, you make a purchasing decision. You make an informed decision. Consider the 3 hotels on the screen. You're going to Paris for the weekend. Which one will you look at first? I'd suggest you'd look at the middle one. It comes number 250th, 242nd of all hotels in Paris. You'd certainly look at the lower one. It's only 350 places lower, yet it's £50 a night cheaper. The top one doesn't get a look in. You don't look at it. You have no idea if those people who have rated these hotels think the Burj Al Arab is a 5-star hotel or a tent in the field in the middle of Glastonbury is a 5-star hotel. But you will make an informed purchasing decision based on the back of it. One business survives, one business shuts and gets no custom. And the same thing is happening in recruitment and how people choose jobs. Glassdoor allows people to completely anonymously praise or denigrate you as a business. The 2 screenshots you can see now on the left-hand side. Would I recommend this job to a friend? Not really. What do I think of the CEO? Average. If you look at the words at the bottom, where it says, the food is embarrassing to serve. We cook steaks in pizza ovens, and so on. And on the bottom right-hand side, where it says, I declined the job. And I declined it because it took a month for them to respond about the next stage of the process, by which time I had alternative employment already and had been working for a few weeks. 2 questions. Would you either A, go and eat in that restaurant, or B, apply to them? You will make an informed decision based on feedback from people you've never met, and research has proved this. Some tens of thousands of candidates were interviewed to ask them if they were given a good experience during the recruitment process, would they apply back to that same company again? And in this, it is irrelevant what experience we believe we gave the candidates. It is what the candidates believe they got. So if you give them a good experience, the people on the right-hand side, they are extremely likely to come back, as you would expect. Give them a good experience, 62% will return. The bottom number, the 0.6%, probably is that cohort of people who said something like, the only thing you didn't do right was not give me the job. But consider the people on the left. Consider the people you gave what they believe to be a bad experience. And if you treat them badly, they will not come back, and that's 24.7%. Virgin have taken this data and gone forward and said that the cost of poor candidate experience impacts their business by £4.5 million a year. Part of that is not being able to hire the right people at the right time. Part of that is customers of theirs who had applied to the firm, to Virgin, to get a job, being treated badly and taking their custom elsewhere, taking their broadband to Sky, taking their mobile phone network to Vodafone, and so on. Poor candidate experience can impact your business in two quite significant ways. One, will you be able to hire the people you want? And two, it could impact your viability in terms of having customers going forward. So it's critical. So let's look at 5 factors across the entire process. And starting with the fact that engagement with candidates starts well before they actually physically apply to you and actually physically and consciously choose to come to you to look for a job. Research from the Talent Board shows that candidates who apply to you claim they have a relationship with you 7 months before they actually apply. So majority of candidates, 59.5%, have a relationship with you for 7 months before they actually consciously come to apply. This means every touch point you have in your business externally, be it with customers, be it with suppliers, be it with whoever, every touch point you have impacts people's impression of you and therefore whether they will bother applying to you. It will also influence how they approach and how they apply to you. If you follow Richard Branson, then you, in inverted commas, know Virgin, no matter how tenuous. If you eat in a restaurant, a chain of restaurants, you know that chain. If you shop in a supermarket, you know that brand. And that informs, influences, and it makes people adapt and see whether, if, how, and when they will apply to you. Every single touch point counts. Candidates believe that the brand of an employer has a significant impact on hiring. How you're perceived externally, how you're portrayed in the press, what you stand for, what you are, and your brand impacts massively. And this pre-engagement has a halo effect. If you consider, if you apply for a job and it's with a firm that you, in inverted commas, know, you subconsciously put more effort into that. If there are 2 jobs that are identical in every way advertised, one of them with a brand, a business that you know, and one of them with a brand or business that you've never heard of, you subconsciously put more effort, more concentration, more input into the former with the brand that you know than the latter, than the one you don't. If I've never heard of you, I, as a candidate, when applying to you, consider that to be a file and forget application. And why am I applying to someone I've never heard of? So your brand, how you deal with people, every touch point is critical. This means you can't rely on candidates just coming to you and your website. If they've never heard of you, how's that going to happen? It means you'll need to go and find them. You'll need to engage with them. It will be far more like wooing them over a period of time. If you consider how candidates typically find jobs and then come to corporate websites, the first thing they're presented with is having to know your structure. Which department do you want to work in? Those people are in jobs. They haven't got time to spend researching you and looking for that. So going forward, your engagement strategy will need to change. It can't be just centered around the corporate website. It needs to be out in the ether, engaging with people, wooing them, giving them information, helping them realize why they should join you, letting the rope out a bit, sharing far more, and then capturing them hearts and minds. Second aspect in terms of candidate experience, candidates want engagement. On this, I think you're pushing against an open door. All the research shows that candidates still value the job description. It is the number one job-related piece of information that candidates still look for and search for. But how accurate are your job descriptions? The stat on the screen shows that 2 out of 5 contain job discrepancies. The graphic on the screen suggests that it's the last honest job advert. Certainly wouldn't be able to do that today in terms of the wording. But it's Ernest Shackleton's advert for his expedition to the South Pole. Bitter cold, safe return doubtful, honour and recognition in case of success. How honest are your job adverts? How honest are your job descriptions? And can you, as a challenge, distill what good looks like into 4 or 5 bullet points? Can you actually take a 2 or 3 page job description and go, the per candidate employee does these things well, these 4 or 5 things, that is what will define success. So your job descriptions are still critical, but it is not the number one thing that candidates want to see in the process. Number one thing they want to see in their process is where they're going to sit, the office environment. Now, they always say a picture says 1,000 words. It's quite hard to find a picture that does it quite as well as this. Some of you on the call would have looked at that picture and gone, fantastic, would love to work there. I know exactly where I'm going to sit, 35 rows over, 42 up. I can wear what I want into work, including a tank top. I can customize my desk and make it personal. I can barricade myself in if you look at the one on the bottom right-hand side. And if I want to leave early on a Friday, I can nip out and no one's going to see me. Some of you on the call would have looked at that picture and gone, over my dead body. It looks like a battery hen. I don't think the conversations are going to be interesting with people. I'm probably going to get the desk, which is halfway up on the right-hand side. And if you look very carefully at the picture, there isn't actually an entrance to it. None of you went, how much are you going to pay me? None of you went, what was the job title again? What was the job content? The picture polarized you. It said 1,000 words and you made broad sweeping assumptions about the culture, the style, and the kind of people that work there. Because all too often nowadays, and now on the screen, this is our corporate HQ of Impelling Group up in Luton. But I'm not in an office looking at that building. I'm in that building looking out. So what is the style of that building? What kind of people work there? How is it? And you'll be gravitated, you'll be drawn towards one of those pictures. Bottom right, fantastic, open plan, collaborative, and so on. But it might be really noisy, and therefore you can't get work done, you can't concentrate. So what is your style? What is your office? Candidates, before they apply, they want to know a number of things. This is the kind of the full list. I've already said the job description. The picture, the environment, the office environment touches on culture and values. What is your culture and values? Especially true of Gen Y and Gen Z as they come through. Highly motivated by the style, the culture, what you stand for. The reserved employee of the month picture on the screen is from Domino's. The employee of the month gets a cash recognition. Fantastic. Goes into salary, but it disappears. It happens over the horizon. It gets taxed. They also get the parking space closest to the front door. That is the one thing they fight over. That's a very visible ramification of being the employee of the month. But what candidates also really want to know, why do people work here? Why do people get out of bed in the morning? What motivates them? What gets them to stay? It's the people side of things. It's the culture. It's the style of business. It's the purpose of the business that people want to understand nowadays. Of medium interest to candidates is salary. salary is a binary thing. It's a base level. It's a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Typically, when people see a job advertised, the salary will be enough, in which case I'll apply for it, or it is not enough, in which case I won't. One comment and challenge on this when you advertise a salary. If you advertise a salary for between £25,000 and £30,000, what percentage of candidates expect to get offered 25? What percentage of candidates expect to get offered 30? What percentage expect to upsell you to 31? And what percentage of hiring managers had to be talked up to go to 25 in the first place? So whilst salary isn't of majority interest, it is a binary factor, and it does impact people's decisions. And the areas of less interest, and the one I wanted to concentrate on here is actually the first one, the career path. I think that is generational. I think generationally, baby boomers, Gen X, absolutely far more interested and motivated in career path because they have high tenure. Gen Y and Z, far less so. One research report I read last week said that Gen Y only look 500 days out. That's their time horizon. That's all they look at. So whilst career path is of interest, nice to know about it, but actually that's well into the future. It doesn't drive me or motivate me in the same way. Overall, what candidates want, if you want a summary of this, is actually the story. What is your story? What's the big picture? How does it all come together? If you were going to sell a car, you wouldn't give someone a Haynes manual. So don't give someone just a job description. Tell them your story. Tell them your culture. Tell them your style. Tell them who they'll work with, how they'll work, where they'll work, and so on. Give them the whole picture, warts and all. Make it reality. So many people and businesses try to be awesome, be flawsome, show the reality. Third factor, the application and interview process. What candidates are saying in the research, what they really want when they choose to apply to you, two things actually. They want to be able to show you they've got the skills, what they've got in their locker. They've had the opportunity to bat, if you like, the first point. And the second point, they want to give you feedback. They want to actually ask you questions. Now, the research shows if you ask the two questions that are coming up on the screen now, those drive engagement with candidates. What questions do you have for us? Secondly, what else should we know about you that we haven't already asked? What else have you got in your locker? I would suggest ask those. They're great questions. Only ask them if you intend to do something with the answers. But they're great questions. All the research shows they drive engagement. But then, going back to this list, what candidates want? Relevancy. Candidates want to feel that there's a reason why you're asking the question. Why do you ask the data points and the questions you ask at the point of application? If you don't know why, if you don't know what a good answer looks like, if you're not selecting based on the answer, then why are you asking it? Easy, simple example. Why do you ask address? Now, I get why you need it for maybe credit checks, background checks, and so on, down the process. But at point of application, the address isn't actually that relevant. Do you care if I live at 25 or 27? Do you care if I live in one road or another road, in one town or another town? The question probably is, how are you going to get to work? Is that a reliable form of transport? It's a challenge where the questions are relevant. People want to know how many people have applied. Imagine the different situations where in your call center and you're being told that your call's really important and here's some music, or your call's really important, you're 8th in the queue and here's some music. Which one feels better as you progress? One's a black hole, one isn't. And there's nothing like going back to candidates and actually going, do you know what? We had 100 applicants for this job and actually surprised us as well. You can drive engagement. Give them reminders of the steps. Explain what you're doing with their data. If you imagine the data you hold in all your applications, name, address, jobs, background, hobbies, maybe maiden name, maybe date of birth. If that got hacked, that's a big data privacy issue. And then at the point of application, when people start to go through a process, what we see is that one thing, the majority of candidates are unqualified. They don't have the core basic skills required by the job description. So how a number of corporates have responded is using applicant tracking systems, and they make the process onerous because only those people that want to have the job will go through it. 79% take over 16 minutes. But what happens is you actually alienate the people that haven't got the time to complete the application. So the third stat, a half of candidates, 47%, bomb out of a process because it's too lengthy or complicated. I would suggest, given the economic data I've shown you, that those are the cohort of candidates that you actually wanted. And the other aspect is we make the process onerous, and even though we know people are already going to be rejected, we force them to get to the end of it before we actually reject them. So think of your systems. Think what you're collecting. Think how you're collecting it. Think why you're collecting it, and challenge that status quo. There must be a better way. As a suggestion, break the process down. Bifurcate the application process. Maybe instead of having a lengthy, long process that takes 16 or in some horrendous cases over an hour to actually do, break it down into bite-sized chunks. Ask 3, 4, 5, 6 questions that enable you to make an informed decision. Then send the candidate an email. Well done, congratulations, you're through to the next stage. Could you now please do this for us? Whether that's some more questions, a test or whatever. Let them do that. If they're engaged with you, they'll do it. If they're not engaged with you and don't do another bite-sized chunk, maybe they weren't interested in the job anyway. And they were one of the 50 to 75% of people who are unqualified. And then when they've done the second stage, go to a third stage. Congratulations, well done, you're through to the next stage. So that over that 3-stage interaction, you get the same information you needed as over a 16-minute application, but you know you've hooked them. You've got their engagement. They've come back to you twice. And now you've got all the information you need to make an informed decision. Break the process down, bite-sized chunks. It will stop the people that probably you need bombing out of the process because it's too lengthy and too complicated. And then we get to the interview stage of the process. So first of all, preparation. Cannot emphasize this enough. If you have a candidate coming in for an interview tomorrow morning, I would virtually bet my mortgage on the fact that tonight they are researching you, they are looking at the job description, they are reading their CV, they are ironing their shirt or blouse, they're polishing their shoes, they're working out their travel journey in order to get there on time. You want to hire conscientious, dedicated, focused, loyal people. Those are the aspects of those people. What preparation does the hiring manager do? Are they as equally prepared? Have they spent the time to work out what they want from the role? To probe and look into the CV, the questions they're going to ask? Or is their preparation the 30-second dash from the printer to reception because they're already running late? Do you know what good looks like, WGLL? Do you really understand what it is that makes your people in your business great or merely average? Again, I'll put my mortgage on the fact that it is not technical skills that makes your people great. Technical skills get you in the front door. They get you the interview. They get you to the table. It will be behavioral. It will be the way people work with each other that makes people great. Look at your top performers. Analyze them. See what they do and how they do it. Try and bottle it. And then, in an interview, ask questions around it. Again, in an interview, make it relevant. Make questions relevant. Side-field questions don't help. Explain to candidates what the next stages and steps of the process will be. Tell them when you're going to get back to them. Inform them. Give them the timeline. Explain when it's going to all take place. And also, why make the process so linear? Candidates expect to come to reception, be picked up, shown to a meeting room, have an interview for 45 minutes, hour, whatever the time, and then shown back to reception and shown out. Unemployment's at a 40-year low. It will be Rizzler thick things upon which people make a decision. If the candidate's no good, Sure, follow that process. If the candidate's good, show them around the office. Have someone in your team meet them, take them for a coffee, answer any questions they might have, show them, introduce them to people, show them who they get to work with, show them the kit they'll get to play with, show them what the work will be like, and answer everything. Capture them with hearts and minds. You want talent? You want to hire it? Treat them that way. The top 2 reasons why people withdraw from an application selection process is, number 1, the salary they are talked to is not what they expected. I go back to the job advert. If it's advertised at 25 to 30, what do they expect to be offered? And the second reason why people withdraw from a process is because the hiring company disrespected my time. I've already said you want to hire loyal, dedicated, focused, conscientious people. So when do you interview these conscientious people? In the working day or outside of the working day? If you're doing it in the working day, and of course you want to show them the office, you want to meet them in that working environment, and they want to see the people they're going to work with. Of course, I get that. But be conscious of what you're asking that candidate to do. Either A, take a holiday, in which case they're really investing in you, or B, pull her sickie, in which case you're making that conscientious person lie. So just consider how you're dealing and what you're making the people to do as you put them through the process. If we get on to the 4th stage, penultimate one, rejection or feedback. Now, rejection happens. We all get rejected in different things, and it happens from an early age. The picture on the screen, the candidate on the right has just been informed she didn't get the job. She wasn't quite expecting to get feedback in the way it's just been demonstrated and shown to her that she didn't get that job. When you interview candidates, and we've done surveys with lots of candidates to find this out, the majority of candidates say they do not hear back from employers. 3/4 say they do not hear back. Interestingly, when we've interviewed corporates, broadly 90 to 95% say that they give 100% feedback to candidates. So something's wrong here. There is a massive disconnect. Now, I'm absolutely not suggesting that you spend hours feeding back to every single candidate who's ever applied to you, but make it an appropriate level of feedback. I would suggest everyone who has come for an interview with you should have a value-added feedback call. Sometimes we see feedback calls are a process. I've just offered someone a job, I now need to reject all the other candidates, and therefore I'm going to phone them up. I'm sorry you didn't get the job. Someone else had a better fit, a bit more experience, but good luck with your job search. Add value. Give them an experience. Help them understand why they didn't get the job and what they need to do in order to be considered again with you, where their answers weren't as strong, what extra experience they may need. Those people will go and get jobs. They will get more experience, more capability, and more skills. You may want to hire them again, and it may not be for 5 or 10 years, but they will remember how you dealt with them. So tell people, be clear. Clear rejection is much better than a fake promise. And candidates will have a different expectation to you as an employer. They live in an instant gratification age. They will measure you on how you respond with that context. You can do a quick Google search and find out more about great expectations in 30 seconds than you probably ever needed to know. Yet in a permanent hiring process, we can have a 30, 40 or plus day process, and we can't even tell candidates where they are in it. If you don't get back to them, you don't get back to them promptly, that is how they'll assume you work inside your business. Because what else have they got to go on? And when you reject people, can you make a positive experience? Some organizations will put a skin it down psychometric on the front end application by skinning it down and focusing on specific traits or styles or competencies It only takes 5 minutes to complete. And then when they reject, they can give things back. So this is an email for a corporate, where actually on rejecting, they tell you how you like to get things done, how you like to work with others, and how you like to deal with change. Try and add value. The final bits, final area of this, offer through onboarding. The economic situation basically distills down to the fact that candidates have choices. I would virtually guarantee that anyone who has written their CV to submit it to you is applying elsewhere. Research from MRI has shown that they say 42% of job offers are currently turned down, and these are the reasons why. The number one is that they accepted another job offer. If I'm applying to you, I'm applying elsewhere. Number two, interestingly, is the salary one playing out. The job was advertised between A and B, but you offered me a different figure. So you have to look after the candidates. You have to give them an experience. You could take them all the way through this process. You could spend an inordinate amount of time sifting, searching, hiring manager interviews, getting to the point of offer, and then it's all gone wrong, and you've wasted all that time. But assuming they say, yes, I'll take the job, when does your induction start? It is rather worrying the percentage of candidates who hear from their managers between the point of going, I'd love to accept, to actually walking in the front door the first time as an employee. How does your managers keep that candidate warm? When do you start your induction? And I'm not suggesting revealing the company's secrets right up front, but what information can you do to start the onboarding of that candidate? Bring them in to meet the team. Bring them in to have a cup of coffee. Bring them in to show them around the office. What can you do to get them to start their integration into the business so that they hit the ground on day one absolutely flying? And it's interesting, the candidates are probably at their most positive with you just after they've accepted the job offer, because they're on a high. Use it. And then when the first day comes round, what happens? How are they greeted? Is their first task for the first morning or couple of days to read the company handbook? Do you take them to lunch on the first day? Or do you leave them to sink or swim or give them directions? Or you prep, get out of here, turn left, can't miss it. It's said that something like 4% of people, based on how their interaction and their experience on their first day of the job, 4% of people resign. They don't physically resign. They go home from work on the first day and go, this ain't going to work. I'm going to have to do something else. Maybe I'll go back to my previous employer. Maybe I'll go back to that other job offer I already had anyway and actually say to them, I'll take it. And on the first day, what's the hiring manager like? Do they have a good night? What's the first task of the new employee? Again, if someone starts work with you on Monday, I bet you they're ironing their shirt or blouse on Sunday night. They're making sure they're going to be on time. Are they met at reception? Is the hiring manager okay? What's their first job? What's their first task? To clear out their desk? To clear out the previous incumbent's work? To unlock the computer screen that has the password from the previous incumbent, the voicemail, and reset it? Or is it sorted, nice, clean, and orderly? So in summary, it's put yourself in the candidate's shoes. It's interesting. Job boards have 126,000 job adverts on them. How do yours stand out? How do you find them? If you put yourself in the candidate's shoes, searching for a job, taking that time and effort, putting a CV together, answering all your questions, which may take between 16 and 60 minutes to do, is not fun. It's quite soul-destroying. And actually, at the end of the day, people will forget an awful lot of things. And this is a very famous quote. But they won't forget how you made them feel. They will remember that. And I am confident that most of you on this call have all had a bad recruitment experience. And you will never go back to that business. So, in summary and the call to action, candidate experience and their perception of you as a business can cause you some real business challenges on two levels. One, your ability to actually hire the talent you need in order to be successful. If you treat candidates badly, a quarter of them will just not bother coming back to you ever again, and they will also tell everyone else. And it can also cause you some real issues in terms of customers. Second factor is that put yourself in the candidate's shoes. Try and be a candidate. Try and actually look for your jobs. Find them. Apply for them. Challenge what you do, when you do it, and why you do it. Engagement is critical. Every touch point is important. So use them to actually harness engagement. How are you represented across every touch point? Do you actually ask candidates what they think? Crowdsource some information. You crowdsource them how you can improve the process and make it better. They know answers to problems possibly you don't even know. After all, they're applying for jobs everywhere. Use it. Challenge how you can improve the process. Give information to candidates on why they should want to be with you and why they shouldn't. Enable them to deselect themselves. Show them what the reality is rather than hiring people that may then resign. Improve the process. Challenge what you do. You've got to be real and true to what you are. Give an appropriate level of feedback based on where the candidate got in the process. Spend the time and value on the ones that you may want to hire again. And how you treat candidates, the feedback you give them. Candidates would assume how you treat them when you really want them, when you're wooing them, is how they'll be treated when they work for you. So are you an instant feedback organization, or are you a dinosaur that takes 3 weeks to get back to people? That is the impression you will leave. So I hope that was very interesting. I hope it was very useful, and I'll hand you back to Simon, who will bring this to a conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. As ever, your content and delivery was superb. I'm sure that everybody who registered would like me to pass on their appreciation. And a big thank you to everyone for listening. You've still got time to submit questions to Russell, and please do take a moment to review this webinar as we really value your feedback. Please also check out our website or Russell's LinkedIn profile for details of the other upcoming webinars and seminars. Until next time, thanks again.